Property Tribes on location at the Short Stay Show, the inaugural event in London. We've come along to the Short-Term Accommodation Association stand, and I'm delighted to join Chair Merilee Karr. And Merilee, such an exciting event here today. It's almost like the service accommodation industry has come of age to have such a landmark and vibrant event.
Look, we're really proud to be hosting this event, the first of its kind in the UK, which is bringing together people from all different areas of the sector, from hosts who just have individual properties, to property management companies and branded home accommodation providers, as well as all of the service providers who help this industry to thrive. I think the industry's been around for a few years. Obviously, there's the traditional holiday homes business, but with Airbnb, with all of the big platforms kind of establishing in this area, it's created a huge industry. We talk about the industry being potentially £52 billion industry in the UK by 2025. And just to give a bit of context, that's as big as the aerospace and aviation industry in this country. So absolutely huge. But what's exciting about it is this is an industry where it's kind of democratized. Lots of individuals can benefit from it. And certainly for your audience, there are a lot of landlords who are trying to learn more and understand about the sector. And it's great to have a lot of you here learning about this segment of the industry.
Well, we're here because we've had so much interest in it on Property Tribes, and as you say, the private rented sector in some ways is shrinking because of government intervention, new taxation, new legislation. What's so good is to come here and see so many people, and that we can see that this sector is growing very significantly.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, it's growing at 30% year on year, and in any sector, that's absolutely huge. I'm a landlord myself, and I absolutely understand all of those challenges about the changing tax rules, pressure on yields, and I think what's exciting is that there are opportunities that our industry can provide to help landlords. I'm happy to kind of share some of the ideas of how they can benefit as well.
Well, do you want to do that?
Yeah, absolutely happy to. So I think a couple of the things that are real opportunities are that landlords, of course, will have void periods. And as soon as there's a void period, that's one of the most costly impacts on yield. And as soon as people know that a tenant's moving out, there's an opportunity to supplement income with short lettings. Now, obviously in London, there's rules around that being up to 90 days, but around the rest of the country, there's much more flexibility around that. What it can also do, and where in my own company Under the Doormat, we've worked with landlords and portfolio owners, is actually also to maximize seasonality, because typically our industry is strong in summer months, over Christmas periods, which actually tend to be the more difficult periods for long-term landlords. So imagine, your tenants decide to move out on the 1st of May. It might be an opportunity to work with a company like Under the Doormat, or to manage it yourself on Airbnb, and actually to use that period over the summer as short lets. And then in September, which might be a better time to find a tenant at the right long-term tenancy rate, then you can go back to that model. I think the other exciting area for me is that people are often afraid of letting their tenants rent out on Airbnb when they're away, because of course there are some risks with doing that if it's not managed properly. But another thing that we do at Under the Doormat is we'll work with landlords to allow their tenants to do it, to short let when they're away, because it creates longer tenancies. If someone's going to be away on a 3-month project, they don't want to be paying rent that period and not living there. But rather than having to move out and then maybe finding a new place, actually they can keep their tenancy contract, and as long as they're allowed to do it properly, insured, managed, and de-risked for the landlord, it can be an opportunity to have those longer tenancies and potentially to share a bit of the revenue between the tenant and the landlord as an extra yield. So it's something everyone can benefit from. and a really simple way to increase the overall yield. And as a short-term accommodation association, we also have best practice tenancy agreements, which allow short lets and things like that. So there's lots of resources available for landlords who might want to consider and be a bit more open-minded about these things.
Well, that's fantastic. We'll put the website link underneath this video. I think we should point out that if you were going to do that, you would have to look at your buy-to-let mortgage terms and conditions. You'd need specialist insurance. If it was leasehold, there might be an issue. And also, I think we should point out you would need a fully furnished accommodation, because you couldn't do short-term lets without providing a high level of fixtures and fittings. But, as you say, they're all good ways to think about, protecting your yield. Let's talk about the Short-Term Accommodation Association. My understanding was that you're very much set up to raise standards in the sector. Tell us a little bit about your remit.
So we are the industry body representing everyone from the companies that run short-term accommodation businesses to affiliate companies who support the industry, and also hosts who are just individuals who are putting their property in short-term lets. So the idea is that we represent the interests of the industry, and our goal is to help the industry to grow responsibly. So as you say, setting standards is a really important part of what we do. Today at the Short Stay Show, we're launching the UK's first accreditation scheme for this industry. Now, what that means is that an individual host, a property portfolio owner, or any company in this industry who manages short lets can get accredited. And the standards for health and safety, consumer protection, all the standards that you need to understand and deliver in this sector are vetted by a third party, Quality and Tourism, who ran the Visit England scheme for many years. And that third party accreditation gives your business or your single property the credibility that it's been inspected and that it's a trustworthy business or property. And so that's a huge opportunity to help consumers know that yours is a reputable business. And it's also an opportunity as a sector, because it means we've got independent inspections and standards clear for everyone to follow, so that we can be raising the bar and helping to avoid, disastrous stories in the press, which actually don't help any of us.
Now, you work closely with government, and we've had government speakers here today. Government's very much got its eye on this sector, haven't they?
Absolutely. I mean, we're often meeting with Lords and MPs and talking to the various different government departments. Lord Bourne from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government opened up our session today, very much in support of the industry, but also challenging us that we need to be taking those first steps to self-regulate, so that there isn't a need for government to come in with additional rules on top. And as we know, it is already a regulated sector. There are lots of health and safety rules, fire safety, all kinds of regulations that need to be adhered to. But it's more about people being aware of them than being consistently implemented, and creating those visible standards through things like the accreditation scheme.
Now, I'd like to get your view on there's certain courses out there that say you can become a serviced accommodation host, no effort, don't need much money to do it, don't need to really be very hands-on. All you do is pop a key safe on the door outside the property. I'm sure you want to join with me in saying, actually, no, it's not that easy. It does take knowledge, professionalism, regulation issues, as you said, health and safety, the safety of your guests, all of these things. It's like almost being like a hotelier. It's not something that people should take on lightly, thinking that there's no regulation and that it's going to be easy.
No, absolutely not. I think both from the regulatory point of view, it's like anything. To get the real benefits out of it, you actually have to do it properly. And that comes back a little bit to why I set up my business under the doormat, because I saw that peer-to-peer has its place, and lots of people do want that. I'll just go rent a room in someone's home and go and stay there. But even in those situations, you've got to make sure that health and safety is in place and that you're looking after your guests. And most people who have empty homes or landlords who are managing a portfolio don't want to become hospitality providers. That isn't their business or, quite frankly, their interest. You know, a lot of landlords actually went into the business because they didn't want to be so hands-on. And, you know, this is a business that requires absolute hands-on management. So I set up my company because I felt that both for landlords and homeowners as well as guests, there needed to be a more professional solution. And I think that's important because as the industry grows, more and more consumers are demanding the quality of a hotel in the comfort of a home. And if you're not able to provide that, then you know you're missing out on the high-end guests who are willing to pay a premium to stay in a property. And you know, I think that's where sometimes working with a company who is an expert in that can be a good solution for landlords, not to have to become an expert on something else on top. And especially in some of the models that I described where, you know, it isn't permanently changing the portfolio into short lets, but using it to augment the yield and augment the way your current portfolio works, getting specialists in who can help is probably a really good solution to consider.
Indeed, no, I agree with that. And just as we close out here, the short stay show, obviously the inaugural event, amazing that this sector is thriving and growing in such economic uncertain times with Brexit, etc. What do you think will be the kind of messages and the trends that will flow out of today's event?
Well, look, I mean, uncertain times are in a way where our industry got our last boost. In the economic crisis some years ago, that's when, you know, the sharing economy was born, essentially. And I think with a weak pound, certainly for the UK, that means increased inbound tourism. And quite frankly, whether Brexit happens or doesn't happen, you know, tourism is growing, and you know, increasingly people are wanting to be able to stay in homes when they travel. That trend isn't going to change. I do think that, you know, with the uncertain times, people are also looking for better ways to maximize their portfolios and their yields, and the pressure's on to be able to be economically viable. And I think that's where a lot of people are looking to this industry as a huge opportunity. And so I certainly see the industry growing. There are, of course, like any industry, its challenges with Brexit, and I think certainly the skills in the hospitality sector to really deliver the services to the highest quality, even things like having good cleaners, you know, simple things like that can be a challenge if we don't have the right exit from the European Union. And so certainly as a business owner myself, these are the things I worry about. But I also know that this is quite a resilient sector, and I would expect these uncertain times, if anything, to boost the interest in the sector overall.
Fantastic. Well, we can certainly feel the buzz here today at the Short Stay Show. Thank you very much, Merilee, for your insights. And also, you know, I wanted just to commend you for your work as the chair of the Short-Term Accommodation Association. You're doing very good work. I see it around the social web, the kind of things that you're doing, that you're looking to raise standards, that you're looking to professionalise the sector. This is all good stuff. You have our full support at Property Tribes, and I hope we can talk to you again.
Wonderful. I'd love that.
Thank you.